Welcome to the channel. This is Reliable Rudy. Just gonna go live for half hour or so, go over the indexes. Start with the Nasdaq, go to crude oil, and maybe touch up on Bitcoin. I don't know, I haven't looked at Bitcoin in a while. And then we'll go over kind of my tickers that I panned out on Monday that I wanted to watch for the week, and a couple that I've added in there. But before we go into any analysis, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor, this is all my opinion. And, you know, a lot of things can change in a short period of time in the stock market. We all know that. So, simply just sharing my opinion. So, starting with the Nasdaq, I'm just going to clear the chart. End of the day, you know, it got close to a negative break, but you got your retrace back to your EMA. Just hovering around this middle point. Got a nice three green candles right here. Didn't get the decreasing volume, but where I'd be looking for a potential like early entry. So this is, we'll go into a 15-minute chart, but if somehow during today's price action we get a price over top of this wick right here, it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Just because if I were to take, let me turn my volume off so you guys can see this a little bit better. Okay, close this down over here. If I'm just looking at just top of the move, bottom of the move, where do we retrace to? We put three wicks into this, the half. One, two, three. Three different wicks into it. We'll go into a 15-minute chart and see what it kind of looks like right here. So right now, if this were to come in and set like some sort of higher low, the early entries is actually probably this neckline break right here, if you were trying to get some sort of retrace. But that's only if this support can hold right here. You see how boom, 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 boom. This is basically your one half of this move right here. So a very interesting level that, this could probably be adjusted a little bit to like right there. I would just match them up. So you see how we have action before the move actually happens. We retrace down to the area and how we reject it. So we retrace down to the 382. Boom. Right to it. It wicks below it a little bit, but this holds. Boom. The retest of the first retracement right there. So I would respect these levels, and more importantly, the 702 meeting up with this support right here. If we are to get another leg down, this is where I'd be looking for a potential move and a bounce. So looking at the key levels, if you were going to try and take an early entry right here for a larger move, retrace, build this nice little U shape right here, okay, then this is probably your early entry, stop loss underneath your half. And if it goes against you, you know your range that you're looking for. You're looking for part of this green candle to hold. Um, so yeah, that is the NQ. I would say on a 15-minute chart, I would just wait. Just be patient. See if this low is gonna hold right here. Now, looks like a little green is coming in. Wait for your positive break. So we're still sitting at negative 100. But this is a nice healthy move. If I switch to an hourly chart on this, you can see a lot closer to that positive break. So this is a key level of support on the Nasdaq. If this were to give this range up during today's trading day, I think it's going to be a bloody Friday. But I do think that there's hope. You can see that there is buying pressure coming in right here. But this could also be a bear flag. Boom. You're looking at the next three. One, two, three. What happens? You get a slight gap down. Oh, my bad. This is important right here. So on this hour candle, you see how we gap down. This is kind of the bear flag that's panning out. So if it pans out, it's going to take out this low early in the day. So you're going to find out uh, how it's going to play out that way. And I guess my bad, it's not Friday, it's Thursday. Um, but that is my thoughts on the NQ. Today I think is a crucial day. We want to see this support range hold. I'm just gonna clear all my charting right there, and yeah, we'll go from there. Let me get that volume scanner back up. Just volume right there. Perfect. Okay, moving on. Let's go over to crude oil, because I think crude oil is very interesting. So this is an hour chart. Um, but this has been a channel I've had up, and we've had this uptrend up here on oil, and we've had one, two, three, four bounces. Now it did peak over top. I was starting to call this a neckline, but hard rejected. But also starting the trade back inside of the channel. So that's not exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more of a hold of that 77.50, which we're down to 77. Uh, but as a retracement, if I were to just take this move right here, you know, starting the wick into this 702, so I don't mind that. I do think that this move right here could have some meaningful weight to it, saying that we did set a close for a new high for the close compared to this top right here, and this uptrend has been respected very well. So oil, I think, is definitely on watch. Even if it just trades sideways, I'm good with the oil plays. I think the oil plays have a lot of potential. Now, what else do I want to go? We'll go over natural gas because I think that's important to talk about, uh, given the circumstances on the year. Very good January, hot early February, and then we've kind of died off since then. But natural gas has been on fire. Really nice move here in natural gas. Is it going to retrace more? Uh, the big level I would say is this gap right here on natural gas. If we can retrace back down to this range, it has potential inverse head and shoulders. Not the healthiest looking head and shoulders, but goes on a run, builds a U-shape. We might not even come down to this gap. Uh, all in all, I think there's worse places to put your money. I shouldn't say it like that, but I think that this is getting very close to a positive break. We're at negative 49. All it would take is for us to build this U shape. This is a nice flat top gap. If we were able to fill that at 3 flat, you could be seeing some people take breakouts, but then buying the middle of this move right here. So if we were to have a move from like these lows right here, I would be looking for a retrace. And let's say we sell off at the top of this gap. I'd be looking for a retracement into like these first two retracements right there. So if I were to take this out, so we could just play this out a little bit. You get the move and then the pull back into the middle, and then you take out that high, maybe back test the high. So I think a natural gas is a very interesting setup. If it does get that positive break, we know that there's been a lot of volume coming into these natural gas plays. And where there's volume, there's going to be volatility, so nothing is guaranteed, but this is a pretty good example of that volume. I probably put this line in here to represent this volume increasing. I think it was last week. It was just day after day. It seemed like it was just pumping over 80 million in volume, which is nuts to say. Yesterday put up 64 million in volume still, and it had a pretty decent wick uh, into this as well. Sort of giving that double bottom look right there. And you do have this gap down. Here's that big gap down, which is why it's a flat top gap. If it takes out this high right here, boom, just like that, you're going to have a nice little pop. And looking more to a 15-minute chart, it looks like it's going to open flat, but you have a gap to be filled right here. So I mean, if you were just looking for some sort of move, let's say you take a pullback and then the volume does come in. I mean, that's a 7% move. It doesn't. That's not going to take very long. But all in all, Boyle sitting at a negative 12 right here. You could have a little pullback. It looks like it's going to gap down a little bit. You retrace, fill that gap. Volume comes in. We get a positive break. Before you know it, that 7% is going to come quick. Um, so I think that's a potential play for if somebody was looking for a day trade, or maybe they're looking for a larger move and they end up waiting for the gap to fill. They buy the consolidation and then it starts to retrace and fill this next gap. I mean, the potential move on that, we're talking about 33%. Um, so very interesting. I think natural gas is worth keeping on watch. I'll look at Bitcoin real quick and then we'll speed through some of these tickers. Oops, wrong. I'm really not even familiar with what this chart's gonna look like. But I would say it's got off of a 15-minute chart. It looks like a stair step. Um, that doesn't mean that this is going to continue. but pretty crucial level of support. You know, even if you do start getting a bounce from here, you got a inverse head and shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see that very nice, clean, oops, a clean 5-wave structure. I mean, you can't draw them up any better than this. You get your initial move, you have a small retrace, you take out the high, you retrace back to the previous high. You see this, boom, and then you get an exhaustive move, followed by a stair step, another 5-wave structure right in there, where you then get a B, C sort of retracement, tries to build a U shape, but inside of this U shape, you see you have retracements. So this could easily set up for some sort of head and shoulders retest of these highs over here before we ultimately get bearish. Now that doesn't mean that we're all just automatically going to get bearish. This could easily just set some sort of smaller 5-wave structure. This is all it would take right here. I'm trying to draw this out quicker. Where you give the double top, you have the red engulfing down, you retest, and then you get a higher low trend line that you can start putting in, and then is it going to start curling up from there? So you really just want to see, okay, if it starts to look like a head and shoulders, is the volume going to be able to push that shoulder at a given time? It doesn't really have the greatest trend line to go off of. I'm just going to clear my chart right here. I would say the trend line's probably meeting in something like that, and this is trying to build some sort of channel. Now you want to see it continue to hold that channel. Now if we do get a bigger pullback, this previous top right here, I would say isn't decent. Now if you give out this support, I wouldn't be surprised to see a smaller term bounce from this support over here, and then a retest. So let's say you give up the support, I wouldn't be surprised to see a retest of this range right here before we ultimately had a larger red engulfing down to the bottom end of this channel right here. But it's all tough to say. I would think that you would catch a bounce. If it continues to get rejected, that's where you'd see that red engulfing down right there. And I would think you'd see a descending channel kind of like this down to the trend line. All in all, on a longer time scheme, or longer time frame for Bitcoin, you have a beautiful left leg, neckline, double bottom, extended right leg. Eventually, you're going to backtest the neckline. That is the backtested neckline reference right there. Now, it didn't quite get there. It did retest these highs. So, it's all tough to say. You need more information on the chart, but all in all, um, hovering around this negative break on a month chart, and that's not really a good look. You want to see the middle of this nice green candle hold and eventually take out this high. That's if Bitcoin's gonna get super bullish. Over 25K is pretty bullish right there. Okay, so now going over to some of the tickers that I think are worthy of being watched. We'll start with first one on the list right here. We got ABEV. Let's clear all the drawings. We'll go to a day chart. Now, why do I like ABEV? You have a nice ascending channel right here. Now, it is kind of at the top end of this channel right here, but fresh high off of a good earnings report that I liked. I was not able to, some of these international companies have just the most interesting earnings reports to look through. But all in all, pretty good strength right here. Had a nice gap up, didn't have the strength to come back down. We had an open order all day yesterday off of 257, just saying, hey, this is going to get triggered. Respected 250 for some early entries, but we actually are positive 11 on on a chart. So any types of pullbacks, I will keep that order off 257. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but I like the pullback buy in ABIV. I think there's a lot of potential there. And if we do just trade sideways, I would expect this to eventually start building a U shape, even if we do have to go negative first. But if we do get a pullback, I know I like this 226 to 218. I think there's a nice gap fill right in there. This is where I'd say for a pullback, meeting in right with 225. Call this a window. 225 to 218. Then we have a 202 sitting right over here. Yeah, I think that this is pretty solid value right here. Still kind of fresh off of this yearly dividend. They pay a dividend once a year, which is a little bit unusual compared to the norm. But I do think that this is representing chart. Next one on the list is AMD. AMD has a beautiful looking channel going to the upside. Has a couple points of contact, third point of contact. You would expect this if we do get a pullback down here. But I did like how it broke uh, this this sort of descending. And you see how this is an extended boom. See how it's got that cone? It's kind of telling you, it's already kind of telling you, hey, look for some sort of reversal pattern. Now, if you were looking for a dip buy, the break over top of these wicks is an early entry. You had a little rejection, but the gap up failed to fill the gap yesterday. It was a decent opportunity, but I was taking early entries. Some of these chip names are have a decent amount of strength. We'll go over one more before this ends, but I think AMD has a pretty decent look. You're through the overall trend right here. You have some sort of descending channel, and you've broken through that. Now, I'm sure if there was some sort of EMA, I bet you that it's above the 200. I bet the 200's rolling in right through here somewhere. And I bet the 50 is actually getting close to crossing that. And some call that a golden cross. I just call it the 50's crossing over the 200. I, uh, I don't know how I'm not the most familiar with the 50 cross, but I know a lot of people hold that in high regard. AMD, pretty decent look right here. Building a nice U shape, got really good reaction. This was the main reason why I liked this, because it was holding these previous highs. Had a couple trading days below it, but AMD, pretty decent look. Next one on the list is ARRY. ARRY, same kind of thing, but this had really good action off the trend line. Earnings are coming up, so keep that in mind. But even yesterday's trading day, we had entries on the break of this neckline, or I called it a neckline. Uh, but you see how we wick into the previous low. Here's a low right here, and tried to hold support. Gaps down below it, red engulfing, wicks into it. As soon as it takes this high out right here, it's a 1950 break. This is right at 1950. We can even go into a 15-minute chart and look at this. This is the candle that it puts on the open. You're already positive. Gaps up, fills the gap, wicks into that high. Boom, full green engulfing. Here's your consolidation retest of the previous high right there. You see that just marking that previous high? You zoom in a little bit, boom, wicks right into it. How convenient. Gives you the perfect entry. But nice extension, breaks the trend line now, respects the top end of the downtrend. So one to keep on watching. At the end of the day, it actually put a nice little bullish close. You could have bought it right at the end of the day, right off the previous high. Would have been a great entry in my opinion. But that doesn't mean it's going to go up. Uh, it's more of like an average up. If I wanted to average up, that was an opportunity right at the end of the day. It's not going to move until it takes out 22. 22, it might get a false hope rejection. But I like this wick on this, and I think ARRY is a pretty interesting look, saying that this gap over here filled, rejects it, rejects it, rejects it, rejects it, but at the same time you have all these higher lows coming in. Eventually, he's going to build this wedge pattern. You're looking for a breakout and retest. So I think Array, pretty decent little chart setup that it has. Next one on the list, there's thousands that I could talk about. I could talk about Activision real quick. Did get a break of this channel on Activision. Uh, nice little bull flag right here. Boom. You had your indicator right here. You gap up, fail to fill the gap. Pretty solid look. I'm looking for continuation. You can see this sort of stair step action coming in. Are we going to pull back? If we do pull back, you have your previous high meeting in with the gap fill, which also would happen to be your 618, 702, give or take. Pretty decent look on Activision, but I actually didn't have that written on because I got my entry. Um, BTI, I'm going to respect this trend line. I respected it last week or 2 weeks ago, uh, right in here somewhere. That doesn't mean I'm buying the lows. You know, I had some entries in right here, I had some entries in right here, and now we're closing below 37.50. I actually had some entries yesterday around this 37 as it was holding 37.50. You know, it's probably going to go south. I mean, that's fine. I'm okay. I'm okay with BTI. I actually kind of like the valuation down here in these mid 30s. And we got a nice hefty dividend coming up. And I like their earnings report. I thought their earnings report was pretty good in terms of the forward guidance. You know, you had a miss right here on revenue. They've been consistently putting up this revenue for, I think, like 3 years. 15, 18, 16, 18, 16, 17, 15. I mean, pretty consistent revenue. And I think that with inflation alone, they have a lot of pricing power with their products. And I'm not going to talk about that much. But I do like BTI. I'm going to respect this uptrend. And I think eventually you're going to probably get some sort of price. This looks like some sort of ascending channel right here, give or take. You know, there's multiple different things that you could do with that, I'm sure. But I'm gonna respect this uptrend. Next on the list, uh, you know, at the time I did put it just because add a little spice, but this did break this downtrend that I had originally. So I had a downtrend set like this. So you could say that this downtrend is broken, but I think that it looks more like this. But getting really close to that positive break, you can see we're at negative 37. Oh, I didn't even mention that with BTI. If we do get volume coming into this, you know, you have a couple gaps right in here. 1, 2. You have two different gaps. If we get another higher low off of this uptrend, I'm going to expect some sort of positive break right here. And what better time before this dividend? So I think that's worthy of a look. EAF. I think this one is worth watching, and I'm going to show you why. You have a nice descending channel, respected, perfectly parallel, and now you have an ascending channel brewing in the works. Now you are very close to this negative break, but I'm not buying a negative break until this uptrend gives up. Um, you know, a late entry, I would say you have a tons of buyers sitting in right at this range. Tons of buyers. If the price were to get there, the price has to get there. And why do I say that there's buyers? Is because there's a nice 260 gap fill right here. That is a pretty hefty size return, even from right here, looking at 12%. But just going off of this chart, look right here. Where do you want to buy? Where do you want to sell? Uh, you know, pretty financially sound company, but 86% off of just the downtrend. That's a pretty interesting look, and looking more so into this right here. You know, you could say that this was some sort of downtrend, and you just back tested the downtrend after breaking it. Uh, so multiple different ways of looking at this as, hey, this is pretty decent setup. They did just get done paying this dividend, and you know hasn't had much price action since. Earnings report looks like a pretty solid decrease right there, so maybe something of concern. Uh, But all in all, this uptrend has to give up for me to say, hey, we're gonna retrace back down to, you have a gap fill down here at 420. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. But EAF, pretty decent look right there. EIGR, I threw this on here early in the week just because, it had this just beautiful or descending channel right here. Boom, 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 boom. And he did have 1, 2, 3 points of contact. I was expecting this fourth point of contact right here, but it looks like I kind of have my answer. I fiddled around with it a little bit, I believe, over here. But this was the tell, got stopped out, and I said, if it can retrace and reclaim that 180, uh, and why does it need to reclaim 180 is because you have these two wicks right here. Simply just because of that. But if this did hold 150, it would be pretty interesting because you have these previous tops right here. It's a pretty interesting look. Even this could be called a neckline down here, a full bit of a false breakout of that 150. So I might just keep it on watch. I don't own this position. It's the only one of the ones that I've talked about so far that I don't own. But we will move on to the next one that I think is starting to catch a little bit of a bid. I did dip into a couple shares as it broke. It showed me confirmation that I was breaking this. Where it was the entry that I took was probably over top of these highs. I know it was somewhere in this 215 range. I had two entries for one share piece. So nothing crazy, but you get the gap up, and this wick does set a close above this gap, which I think this has a pretty interesting look, saying that January's been pretty good. Solar energy has not been a popular play on the year, but I'd say you probably have some sort of ascending channel right here. So we like taking a relatively strong chart movement. A lot of people a lot of popular tickers, have a descending from the 2022 year. A lot of stocks have a descending channel that's kind of breaking out of those channels. Um, but interesting to look with a ascending channel on the daily chart right here, but way extended. Is it overextended? I don't know. Year or quarter in and quarter out, they're compounding both earnings and revenue, and it's probably anticipated that they're going to continue that. Consistently beat it almost every single quarter. We got to go back to 2018 before the last quarter that they missed. Um, I'm sure there's worse places to put your money. If it does remain bearish, I'm really interested down here in these 170s, just respecting this uptrend. But that is N phase ENPH. EQT. I think this is the first oil play. Yep, you have a nice uptrend. Now, we have no confirmed higher low. It kind of does, but it's pretty short term. But I would say that this is some sort of uptrend. If it gives it up, you have this low, which you do have a gap to be filled right here. Descending channel. Is it going to respect the uptrend? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 points of contact on this uptrend. If this uptrend comes in, I probably could redraw this uptrend a little bit more clean. Something like that, just connecting that low. Uh, I think this is a pretty decent look. I think a lot of oil charts are right around this uptrend right here. So oil is an interesting play. So EQT, I think that is a decent look. Moving right along. Forward, believe it or not, pretty interesting look. I think this is a watcher for me today because we're getting really close. Now, are we going to come retrace back down to this gap fill is what I'm saying. But you have a nice downtrend right here that it gaps up above and holds. You're positive. It's a fresh positive break. Even after paying this special dividend of 80 cents. Ford is able to, is this a confirmed higher low? Is this going to uh, be some sort of downtrend like this where, that was just a false breakout, a couple false breakouts of that. if it did retrace, down here at this 11 is pretty solid support. So a couple different ways of looking at it. Uh, if it was going to get shorted, it would have to take out this low. So maybe a retrace down to this range where you then have another pop, set a double top, this low tries to hold, and then it finally gives out, retracing down to the bottom. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna post. So next on the list, we are going to talk about one that I have bought a little bit this week. And rightfully so. You have just to break it down, you had a descending channel. You break that channel, now the 200 period's rolling right in through here, and I think it's right at 50-50. Now you retest the top end of this channel. This is why this is interesting to look. It has 3 points of contact and a parallel channel that's ascending after breaking through this downtrend. I think Fastenal is a pretty decent place. Uh, Even rightfully so right here. This is kind of a bear trap, and I'm going to show you why. See how it's wicking into this previous low right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're looking for that wave 5, retesting the true top end of that downtrend, and you got your 200 rolling in right through here. Now I believe this is a I'm gonna go pull up this one because I'm pretty sure it is. Uh, the golden cross that people talk about, where the 50 crosses 200. And looking at it right here, it looks like Fastenal actually is up in the pre-market. But yeah, this I'm gonna pull this over here so you guys can see this. Um, I don't know how to get my watch list off right there. Uh, but there you have your 50 crossing your 200. A lot of people look at that and hold it in high regard. You know, I don't know. I don't have it on my normal charting setup, but all in all, you have a descending channel that it was able to break through shortly after earnings, which, you know, pretty solid growth on the earnings as well. Increase the dividend. A lot worse places to put your money, in my opinion. But pretty solid look here with Fastenal, and one that I'm okay holding on to. Next on the list that I was looking at quite a bit early in the day yesterday was Google. It did end up selling off, but it did have that look like it wanted to pan out with this bull flag. But it only happened on the second day, so today is going to be an interesting day. Looks like it's going to be flat at the start of the day, and we can go into a 15-minute chart into why I was more focused on it. Uh, you were expecting this previous top and this gap fill to get some sort of action. End of the day, it doesn't really give you any positive break. It's sitting down here at negative, negative, but at the open, you see how we have this green candle, and as soon as it starts wicking, getting this green candle through this, you see you get your true positive break on the consolidation. You get the candle close, and it leaves this wick in the middle of this whole green candle move. It was bullish early, set to double top, gives up the support, uh, gives you a negative negative break. That's why today is going to be a crucial day, and we might not find out the answer for this until Friday. But I'll just clear out the chart. I think Google is a pretty decent setup. Uh, you have 3 points of contact. Is this going to be an ascending channel, sort of like that? It's tough to say. You need a little bit more information because we're still trading inside of this channel. But I think Google is for a blue chip. I think it's a very interesting play in terms of valuation when you look at Apple's not as bad. They invest their money pretty good, but when you look at Tesla and some of these other big cappers, a wee bit of overvaluation is still baked in. Needs to be baked in my opinion. But I think Google, pretty interesting setup. All it would need to take out this downtrend, sort of like Fastenal, pretty interesting setup. Fastenal had right there where it broke, back tested it. And the other example that I talked about in a couple live streams was Allison Transmissions. Allison Transmission had a beautiful downtrend that it broke, retested, sets a higher low on top of that downtrend, where it then takes out the high, retests the high, you get the gap up on earnings. So just trying to trade with momentum on those plays, taking channel breaks. We talked about Boyle a little bit in the beginning, but I'll readdress it. I don't know why this was out of my ABC order, but I think Boyle is worth keeping on watch. I think 6 is a pretty interesting level. 6 is going to be a tell of, you know, you're in a consolidation range right here. Still negative 65, so you're expecting a little bit of bearishness, but a lot of volume is going into this. Where there's volume, there's volatility, and that is something that's going to interest me. So I think Boyle is an interesting look. Gotta see more information. You just need more time. You have a big gap down right here. You have your first gap that you need to worry about. Let's worry about this 620 before we worry about the bigger gap up here. But breakout price, I'd say, if you take out this gap, get a little consolidation, then take out this wick top right here, uh, I would expect a little volume to come into this. And is it going to have the weight to truly fill this gap? That's quite the move right there. So I mean, I can't tell you what's going to happen ahead of time, but just from the breakout price, 21% for that next gap. Next one on the list, I believe this was a trend line move. This was HPQ. 15 minute right there, had a pretty strong close right there. That higher low, even if you were just watching this yesterday right here at a 28, as it holds 28 flat, puts that at the end of the day, pretty strong close right there. Let's see what HPQ is doing. And this was after a third point of contact. I'm going to clear the whole drawing. There's your 3 points of contact right there. And trying to hold this uptrend. Is this going to turn into some sort of channel? It's tough to say. It doesn't have the strength to get there on this one. It just got done paying a dividend. Let's see if it can hold this trend line before we even give it a chance. If we are going to uh, remain bull or stay bullish on this uptrend, it's got to fill this gap either today or tomorrow and hold the uptrend. We're going to be looking for breakouts at 29 flat more than likely. So that's these highs right over here. So a watcher just because of the trend line. IIPR, this was a newer position that we started this week. I like the earnings report. Didn't have the strength to get down to this gap, but I'm fully aware that this gap fill, it might not end up holding. You might get some sort of temporary bounce off of this, and then this is a classic flat bottom break. A lot of times I don't believe this wick. I want to see some sort of fuller green candle. So this is setting up for some sort of flat bottom break where if it retests it, gets a pop, retests it, gets a smaller pop, and then gives out that price as the flat bottom break. But all in all, I have a general idea where it's going. And it's this 74 gap right here where you gap up, never fills it, never had the strength to fill it. But even then, even if that were to give out, I think that the dividend alone, there's a lot worse places to be looking. So very interested in IIPR. A lot of very early entry right here. You're still negative 60. We want to see a little bit more volume come in. Now, if we do start getting bullish, let's start with yesterday's high. If we're able to take out these wicks at an 88 flat, pretty interesting because you have kind of a flat top gap right here, but this is a flat top gap over here, I would say. And is it going to have the strength to eventually push up to 110? I don't know. You need more information, but pretty interesting play. Really good margins and compounding quarter in, quarter out, kind of like Enphase. So I'm interested in companies like that. Next one on the list, we have an ETF, MSOS. Uh, why is it interesting to me? It's held this support range a couple times right here. Nice move, still setting a lower high, but you did get that positive break right here, and you're leaving a wick in the middle of this green candle move right here. Uh, it, it's starting to get a gap up, so that interests me alone. We did buy a little bit of these wicks, nothing crazy, but if it is to take out these highs right here, it's going to be an interesting play. So call this a breakout range right there, and there is still some overhang resistance over here. So there's still some moves that need to happen. I'd want to see a confirmed move and then a retest of this range just because of how long it's traded right here. But early signs of potentially a channel, and why do I say that? I'm going to clear the chart first. Get this out of the way. Early signs of a channel. This is a strong higher low that's put in, but these tops right here is going to be your tell. So if it can respect this uptrend right here, I would look for eventually breaking over top of that and having some sort of retrace. Your retrace would start at this previous low. So this is ultimately the move that I would be looking for a trim into this previous low right here, but it's got to take out these tops first for me to have any confirmation of that. But decent look. Next one on the list, NRG. We got four more, and then I'll talk briefly about a couple more after that. NRG, gave you the positive break, gave you the retest of the original entry at 33 flat. Boom. A couple trading days below it. Is this a cut in stone channel? No, you don't have your third point of contact yet, but you are sitting at a fresh positive, and it's wicking. What did we wick into yesterday? This gap fill, almost on the money. So that's a pretty decent look right there for it to have any weight. Let's start with yesterday's high, and then we'll worry about the wick from the day before. But decent look right here. Recently paid the dividend. All in all, the extension that you're looking for is this gap fill. If you could get this gap fill, if you can find the plays where it actually has the strength to go fill these gaps, I mean, these are pretty substantial moves right here. For buying a fairly safe company, pays a nice dividend, decent payout ratio, good growth, 20% move for that gap. That's not a bad. That's not a bad little look right there. Next on the list, we're gonna go over PINC. Now, why do I like this one? Pretty clean descending channel right here, but it's still trading in the range it was trading in back in 2013. Been paying a dividend. It just recently paid that dividend. Now, why did I have this one up here for a watch? I wanted to see if this uptrend had any sort of weight to it. You have no third point of contact. This would have been the third point of contact. So I'm not surprised that it's given it up. Not one that I own either, but this was an interesting gap that it does leave a nice size wick right here. Even a retracement to this previous low. Let's say this move down is a little overextended. Not the biggest move, 2.5%. But I'd be more interested in a move from a lower price down here. Let's say it respects this channel downward more. You have some decent support. And over here, let's say you got a price later on in the year down here around this upper 29s, and you ran it to the top end of the channel. That's a little bit more bang for your buck. But did want to see this. This is why I wrote it down early in the week. I did want to see how this gap reacted and which direction this wants to go. Just because it's trading below it a little bit, I don't think that this has much weight. Uh, but pretty interesting support level dating all the ways back to. God, I hate how that just keeps popping up right there. But dating back to 2014, I think that's a pretty decent look right there. Two more. Planet. This one is getting closer. We have dipped into this a couple times. Gaining a fresh positive break. Took out the highs yesterday. We dipped into a little bit of it. But we've kind of respected these mid 80s. It's not a large position by any means. I want it for it to have any weight to me, it's got to get back over one. If it can get back over one, it has a catalyst, has a nice U-shaped building right here. Are you going to have some consolidations? Holding, I'd want to see 86, 82 hold. Let's call it 87. I want to see 87 hold. And 87 would be, if I were to run an extension through here, right around your 618. So not a terrible look right there. But one that I'm watching. And the last one is QDEL. Why did I like it? It's been respecting this channel wedge right here, this channel. For me to say that this is going to give up, it's going to have to give up this channel first. But if it has the strength to make a move, take out of day's high yesterday, I think that would fake out. If anybody went short in this candle right here, full red engulfing, it was yesterday. I would say yesterday is a pretty decent day that you could have went short. Even the consolidation the day before. But you do have this $81 gap, $81.79. If it would for the shorts to really get paid, it's gonna have to take out this wick bottom, retest of these lows right here. Real quick, I think the SQ is worth watching. Uh, Respected this uptrend. 1, 2, 3 small points of contact right here. Direct wick into it on Tuesday. Getting a little bit of a gap down. Okay, but all in all, I would say the SQ is interesting to me. I think it's at decent support. You know, is it going to have some sort of for it to break out? Here's your previous lows over here. Direct correlation with it. If the SQ is gonna have any weight, it's gotta get over top of that. So if SQ is in the 40s, watch out. You know, if it does catch a little bit of a bid, you know, the bulls can push this down a little bit in my opinion. But I think the SQ is worth watching. I'm not sitting in the SQ right now. Why? Because you're sitting negative 52. And for me to go in the SQ, that'd be giving up on the longs. You know, if I were to pull up the TQ's hovering in this positive range. If we're sitting positive, I think that the bulls are in favor. Uh, but looking at the TQ, it's the same setup as the Nasdaq from earlier. You have a descending channel right here. If it's going to take out this, you're kind of breaking out of that channel. So Nasdaq long is a potential play for me as well. And that is going to wrap this up. I do have a trade that I'm going to be watching. If we look at the percent movers from yesterday, Kala, I think is worth watching today. Pullback, I'm interested in this 21 level. Looking at a 15-minute chart, is it going to respect this channel? This just looks like a retracement. If this is going to be the start of a retracement, start from that wick high. No, here's your move down. Here's your retracement. You know, if this is the case, you know, I'd look for some sort of 5-wave structure to come in right here. Retested this wick high right here. So that's downside move, 1950. Matching that up with the daily chart. 1950 is your halfway point of that body candle. Hold on, I'm getting a call. That's going to wrap up the live stream for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you on